Yo, what up? My name is Don, and today we're going to be talking about the second half of the Campfire Chat that the Diablo team had 2 days ago now on Twitch and YouTube, talking about some of the big changes coming for Season 5 of Diablo 4. So, I have a list of things that I wanted to kind of touch base on, and I'm going to try to do this all in one shot. So, bear with me. Let's get right into it. The first thing they talked about in some of the big updates, these are not the patch notes, by the way, so this isn't the full list of changes coming to the game, but this is some of the things that they talked about and some of the bigger things that I just wanted to point out. So, they talked about how you get uniques, which is something that I touched on a bit yesterday. They're going to be improving target farming, allowing you to now get a lot more whispers from Helltide. I believe they said they want to make it so Helltide is getting you a full bar of whispers within 15 minutes as opposed to 45 minutes. They also were saying that you can now target farm uniques from the specific chests in Helltide. So if you're going for a unique helm, you can just go and spend your cinders on the Helltide chest that is for helms. And if you would like another unique pants, you can just go get the Helltide chest for pants to potentially get that unique. You're also able to farm or target farm uniques from the Obol vendor, kind of emulating Greed from Diablo 2. I'm pretty sure you could get um, the equivalent uniques back then from him. I'm pretty sure it happened to my cousin, but then again, it was so many years ago that it's hard to remember. And I'm definitely not sitting here looking up YouTube footage of people playing Diablo 2 nowadays. Anyways, there is footage of some um, or sorry, there are updates coming to uniques. So the devs were saying they want players to build their legendaries and build their builds around their uniques. So basically, they're saying they want ideally endgame players to run 2 to 4 uniques in their build, which right now is a little bit offset because of all the upgrades to the legendary powers. It's very easy to just go with a full set of legendaries plus legendary powers as opposed to uniques because it's hard to get them to fit into the build, or it's hard to justify the power that sometimes you feel like they're not giving you. They wanted to also move away. These are things that the dev said, not me. So these are from my notes. They wanted to move away from generic, kind of like fits all bills style of unique. So they want to make uniques more unique. They want to really lean into the unique abilities of them and make them specifically good at that one thing. That's one thing that they stressed a lot going through the second half of this campfire chat. So if you missed it, we're gonna sum it all up right now for you. They only want mythic uniques, aka uber uniques, to fit this, which means Shaco, grandfather, Doombringer, the amulet of Selig, I forget what its name is, but the all the uber uniques and Darial's visage, stuff like that. There are two big updates that they talked about coming to uniques, which is that they're going to be increasing the upper power roll range. So I have some footage of that here that I'm going to put on screen right now. So there you go. They're going to be increasing the upper power roll range of uniques, meaning that um, where a unique would be able to roll between 40 to 80% multiplicative damage, now they're going to be increasing it to 40 to 100% or 40 to 120% multiplicative damage. But you can also see they're talking about increasing the number of rolls from 10 to 20, meaning that the range or the chances to get a higher percentage might be a little harder, but the trade-off is that we're actually able to get those higher percentages now. So um they're going to be doing a couple more changes, which includes updating the affixes, uh basically all of them. They're going to be changing the stats to fit with the season 4 updates, and I have some footage of that we're going to pull up on screen right now. There we are. So they're going to be changing the stat affixes, simplifying stats where appropriate. They thought that some of the things were a little bit too complicated. Add tempering to stats. Example: a two-handed weapon unique will more likely have bonus projectiles because of the power level of legendary powers that you can just put on legendaries. And they're saying right there, this is to compete with tempered weapons. They're also going to be updating the stat power levels and effects of the uniques. So one of the items that they had on screen here, Tybalt's Will, they were talking about how this item kind of became a best in slot for every build just because it gave you increased to damage, it gave you damage reduction, and it gave you a way to get resource as well as increased damage while you were unstoppable, which Adam Jackson was saying wasn't too hard to do to put yourself into an unstoppable state, especially if you were a barbarian, which I main, right? So they want them to be a bit more unique. You can see in brackets they have, like, for example, a fire damage on a fire unique. They really want that to really stand out on that unique. So stats that are generically good and don't fit the theme of the unique don't have higher values, etc. Just damage in general. So I think this is a good change for them to do. It's going to provide a lot more builds and variability for people. They are bringing in 50 more uniques into the game, which is absolutely crazy. Um, I just can't wait. I can't wait. The game feels like it's really expanding, and I feel like season 4 was just the seed of where, you know, the biggest complaint for me, just to sum it all up, was I felt like I was tired of the borrowed power thing of seasons 1, 2, and 3. And I really wanted us to just have, or at least feel like it was more within our control, like player power. And now they're giving us all the player power, and I'm just so excited for it. So I'd love to know what you guys think of that one. They said they're also open to the idea of breaking slot restrictions, and updating stat power levels and effects. So yeah, we talked about the Tybalt's will. Now, next is going to be, and sorry, there's going to be more examples of that. Tybalt's Wool is just the one example that they gave because it is a very good item that fits a lot of builds, but I can't wait for a lot of the new uniques. We did go over some of the uniques yesterday that they introduced, but who knows? Like they said, 50 new ones are coming into the game, so can't wait to see what they all are and what they all do. Mythic Uniques Ubers are now going to be getting a new color. There's going to be updates to Ubers, and I have some footage of that on screen that we can get up here right now. So it's going to be right here. There we are. They're getting a new color beam, a new sound. You can see that they are encased in purple now. A new item UI, which is really cool. You can see that I'm going to turn the sound on in a second, and they actually have a little animation of it, which is really cool. So here it
You can
is.
see here, this beam looks, very different than anything
They're going to
else.
pick up the item here.
Listen to that sound, that echoey sound. I love it.
Sounds like a.
And you can hear the item drop there.
Sounds like you're murdering
gonna
a
drop
bunch
one
of
more
like
time.
church organs or something like that. It's just like crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool. It sounds absolutely epic. I can't wait. I didn't necessarily think that Ubers needed a color change, and things like that are kind of ingrained in my brain are hard to break out of. But I mean, it is it is a cool sound. So the sound is kind of getting me. It sounds really epic. You're obviously going to be able to tell when that drops as opposed to a regular unique. The only thing is, I don't think we need too many different sounds. I'm kind of adverse to iteration when it wasn't broken. Like, there was nothing wrong with the system, and I don't really think people were struggling with that. So, it can be a change that feels a little rough at first, but I'm sure that we'll get used to it. Uh, Next is going to be a taste of some class updates. I'm going to get the footage up here on screen, but they're going to be doing class updates across all classes, they said. In vulnerabilities, for example, I'll get that up on screen. Let's go there. They said that in vulnerabilities are going to start their cooldown when the ability ends, not when it begins. Now, this is to prevent infinite invulnerability and to open up design space for the team to add things like invulnerability duration or cooldown reduction without worry. They also said they were going to review. Sorry, they have been reviewing monster CC, and they generally reduced CC duration and frequency, and we'll just pause that there. They generally they reduced CC duration and frequency, and as you can see on the end of that previous slide, potions can now be used while CC'd, even while stunned, which I'm not really a fan of that change. I feel like there needs to be some contention in fights, and with all the new, um, you know, I just feel like we need to maybe take steps a little bit smaller in certain areas. They've been doing season 4 was obviously another drastic change to the game, and I think it was a great direction for the game. And season 5 seems to be, doubling down on that. And I think overall that's a good thing. But I once again, this is an area where I don't think um, CC was a problem. I think that there are more than enough ways to overcome the CC that the mobs do to you, and I just don't want the game to feel like Diablo 3, where they take away all these areas of, where the game is like giving you some fight back. When they take that all away, it's just going to feel mindless. There are a lot of there's certain bugs being fixed that are going to take away power in certain areas from characters or certain builds. But overall, I think that we as players are getting all sorts of buffs and getting stronger overall. So I don't think at the same time as we get buffs, uh, do the mobs need to essentially get things taken away from them to make them feel weaker. I don't know if that's going to be the effect. I'll just have to see when it's in play, but that's not a change that I'm really a fan of. They're going to have some notable bug fixes, and I'll put that on screen for you right now. The rogue victimize no longer double dips in his damage. These are the three big general fixes they wanted to point out. Dot effects, damage over time effects, are receiving the plus percent damage twice, so that's why like Flay, Rupture Bills are just being insane. And Skeleton Reapers are getting both the Book of the Dead bonuses when the second option is selected. So they changed, they fixed those things, which I mean, again, like I said, it's going to affect certain builds, but it's not going to affect all builds. So, I mean, we'll just have to see how that plays out. And now they showed some new items or just kind of new general updates for every class. With actually Rogue getting the most attention in this little talk, and once again, these aren't the patch notes, so there's going to be more than this coming. But they did tease these a couple things here. So on screen, we have a new item for the Barbarian. This one is called the Unbroken Chain. It's a new unique support type item. They explained it like that. For defensive Barbarians, Steel Grasp and Iron Maelstrom now have a connection, and Iron Maelstrom is now going to provide a lot of damage reduction, as you see in the second paragraph of the effect. It says, casting Steel reduces Iron Maelstrom's cooldown by up to 10 seconds, and Iron Maelstrom is now going to enemies damaged by Iron Maelstrom deal up to 30% less damage for 6 seconds. That's insane, especially if you're considering bosses. Next, we're going to get rogues on screen here. Update to the rogues. Flurry, before Flurry used to well, here's a comparison before and after. There basically was an enhancement to Flurry and both of its upgrades. Before, when Flurry hit a CC unit, you healed, and now Flurry can cause vulnerable and scale up to 50% multiplicative damage, making Flurry way better. There's been a plethora of changes to Flurry that both Adams were quite excited about in the talk. Next, you're going to see them bring up improved Flurry. There it is. So improved Flurry before was about spreading vulnerability, but now, because it's on the baseline ability, Fury is going to now give you a dash, a way to close the distance, which is probably going to be pretty sick in PvP. And it's also going to heal for 10% max life. They're giving some synergy to that sweet, sweet max life affix, which I know as a barbarian I love so much. And then advanced Flurry. Before evading through enemies, the before was evading through enemies caused the next Flurry to do more damage, but now repeat casts of Flurry increase your damage up to 45%, and reduce its energy cost by up to 30% because it stacks 3 times. So that's absolutely amazing. Next up, we're going to have the Druid. Before, this is about the Druid aspect, the Shepherd's aspect. Basically, before it was buffing the player overall. So a lot of it was basically controlling the meta. It was dominating the meta. So it was like a companion build that wasn't really a companion build because people were just putting abilities on their bar that they weren't using to proxy and make the effect better. So now it's just gonna go. It's just gonna be straightforward. They simplified it. The more companion skills are going to deal more damage, an additional 10% damage per companion you have, which is kind of crazy to me. That's absolutely awesome. And I think that's a pretty big, you call it upgrade, a downgrade, a side grade. Either way, I think it's an upgrade because on top of that, they're going to compensate or, give druids something to be excited about by increasing, they said, all the baseline skills, the damage of all the baseline skills. And they didn't really give any numbers, but I guess just going to have to people are just going to have to wait until the PTR to play that and see how it feels. So good things coming for druids. We have Sorks up next. We'll get Sorks on screen here. The Sorks are going to get a new item called Axial Conduit. It's pants again, which have damage reduction on it and a way to cast. You see the third affix there, a way to cast Chain Lightning twice. But the thing that's exciting about this for Sorks is that basically this is focusing in on Chain Lightning, and you're seeing how they're focusing in with the new uniques on specific abilities. Chain Lightning is going to alternate between you and seeking 3 enemies, and when it returns, it drains 6 mana from you, as long as the tooltip says here. Drains 6 mana from you for each active Chain Lightning. After draining 66 mana, the bolt explodes for X amount of damage, and there's a chance to cast double Chain Lightning on the pants itself. So you can see there it's 13 to 17.5%. It also gives you a couple levels to Chain Lightning. The second paragraph is saying how Chain Lightning expires if you don't have enough mana for it to drain. So the whole idea with this is that if you look at the second affix or stat line, it has 31% resource regeneration. So if you get enough resource regeneration to keep the Chain Lightning going, you're going to be an absolute monster. They do have an animation of it that I'm going to put here on screen for you in just a moment. So you can see here the Sork casting the Chain Lightning and how it's circling around her and all the enemies and then exploding. We're just going to put that back up on screen. There we go. It's circling around the Sork and all the enemies, exploding. And then I think they're going to go back to it and show how once you cast it multiple times, they should cast it multiple times here in a moment. You cast Chain Lightning multiple times, and it's basically going to stack multiple times. And the more that you hug your enemies, what if we can go back and get a better glimpse of that? Can we get some better footage of that? Basically, they were trying to show that the more that you cast the ability, the more it's going to circle around you and the enemies and stack and explode. So you hugging bosses or you hugging groups of enemies is going to be something that Chain Lightning Sorks are going to want to do. Next up, they had footage for the Necromancer, which is going to be over here. What are you? Boom. The Necromancer is going to be getting some Golem upgrades. Basically, people were saying how the Golem, it takes a minute to get into fight. It can get stuck on things. So now the Golem is going to leap and Hulk smash into fights now, and then go and cast its abilities. So very straightforward. There's nothing really to think about that upgrade. If you're a Necromancer and you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, I'm not sure what to tell you. I guess you don't get to have the choice if they leap in or not now. So, the thing that I'm a little bit worried about, there is that if the golems, um, say it just, randomly goes to aggro mobs or mobs aggro onto it, is just going to be leaping and jumping into everything and kind of be where the golem is, initiating the fights. Who knows how that's going to work, but we'll have to see. Uh, then they had some quality of life updates. These are things that, again, we talked about yesterday, but general updates to Helltides and Whispers. I'll put that on screen for you. So basically, this is talking about how they wanted. Oh, this is talking about how they wanted Helltides to be very like drop in and gain a bunch of value in a very quick amount of time. So you can see they say 15 minutes here. I personally, you know, I personally don't think there's an issue with Helltide currently. Helltide is an absolute gold mine of resources, of whispers, and the examples they gave of people saying they had to leave Helltide to complete their whispers or something, or it was taking too long. I am mind blown. I'm mind blown because they have to be speaking about the most casual of players, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I just don't think it's wise, in my personal opinion, to change a whole game mode off um what maybe a small percentage of players. I even think like want to say the majority of casual players were not having a problem with Helltide. So or whispers, not even just Helltide, but whispers within Helltide. Regardless, now they're making it much more accessible, I guess, and much more speedy to fill up a full whisper bar within, they say, 15 minutes of yeah, they say now there are 10 points in one Helltide zone and should take 15 minutes to clear. I have no idea how they're going to do that, whether things are just going to be really clustered because Helltides normally are over 2 zones in the game. So I'm not sure what they've got planned there, But we'll see. They also said they were going to make Baneful Hearts that drop from the Hell Maidens more valuable by decreasing supply. They just said that people kind of had too much of them, and they want to, kind of just take it easy on that a little bit. So next up, they wanted to talk about tempering, and we do have some footage of that on screen that we'll put up there for you. So tempering, they were saying that obviously they're paying attention to tempering and players' experience with tempering. They believe it's important. This is their kind of pushback. They believe it's important for items to have an endpoint so players aren't hoarding items forever. A lot of players in the live chat, including me, were like, "We're still hoarding items, right? Off the chance that they can be good based on our temper rolls." Currently, the next point they say is that the RNG is completely out of players' hands, which we don't agree with feels great because there's the possibility to brick items. So they're looking for more ways for players to control the RNG in the future. And for season five, one of the big things that they wanted to introduce is that you're going to get an extra roll per greater affix on the item. So anytime you see that little star icon on the item, if there's one extra greater affix, you get one extra roll. If there's two greater affixes, you get two extra rolls. If there's three greater affixes, you get three extra rolls, which I think is a good way to add some extra value to the current system that they have in place without changing anything up too much. I think that's super wise. Next up, they talked about the inherent stats on items. So we'll put that up on screen there. So basically, they just this was confusing at first to look at, but it just makes sense. It's basically the inherent affix that your item gives you. For example, axes give you, percent to your dot damage. A mace is going to give you overpower damage. A sword is going to give you crit damage. A wand gives you vulnerable damage. So they just kind of said they changed some of the or aligned or maybe clarified or updated some of the philosophy behind the weapons and what inherent affix that they're going to give you. So I thought that was cool to take a look at. It's not too hard to understand. You can pause the screen on that if you need to take a closer look at, what where things are at with that and why that's important is because the next thing that they brought up is that classes are now able to use new weapon types. So we'll just put that on screen. Um, Druids are now going to be able to use two-handed polearms, one-handed swords and daggers. Sorceresses, one-handed swords and maces, and necromancers can use all maces and axes. I know it says swords there. They even confirmed that that was a mistake. So it is that necromancers can now use all maces and axes. And because of that and the inherent affixes on these item types, it's going to open up a lot more builds. And on top of that, we're going to be getting a lot more uniques in general, up to 50 more, right? So there's a lot more coming for every single class, and it's really there's a lot of layers on underneath it all, and it's kind of hard to imagine everything that's coming to the game. On top of that, they're going to be having some updates to the uniques. Necromancers can use the Butcher's Cleaver. Sorks can now use Doombringer and Azarath, more aligning to the way it was in Diablo 2. I think that's really cool. And again, it's just they're really opening up the floodgates on um I guess how should I say the build variety. They're really opening up the floodgates on the build variety in game and what's really possible. And I just can't wait to dive into season five. Next up, we got the uh, Beast in Ice is going to be getting some quality of life updates. You no longer have to make a sigil to summon the Beast in Ice. These are all good because I hated doing all of this personally. The Beast in Ice now lives in a standard dungeon. You no longer have to, spawn that dungeon to get to him. The dungeon crawl to find the boss has been removed. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be a straightforward dungeon like all the other boss dungeons. Eternal players can still activate existing sigils to fight the boss. I don't know why they highlighted Eternal players there because I still have some sigils on my seasonal player regardless, and it no longer requires sigil dust to summon. I'm pretty sure they're just talking about to make the actual sigil itself. That is amazing. I'm glad that the Beast and Ice is getting updates, and the other boss update that they're going to be doing is that Varshan. I'll put that back up on screen real quick. Varshan, the number of body parts needed to summon him is one. It used to be four. It's being reduced to one. That's going to be amazing. I really like the quality of life updates to the bosses. I'm not sure about the one to um um I'm not sure about the quality of life update to Helltides, which again isn't a boss quality of update, but eh, it's gonna be split opinions on that one. I know it is just based on. I think that's gonna be based on kind of like accessibility, how often people are able to play, how much they expect to get for the time they put in, and I completely understand that. I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's opinion. I just personally don't think there needed to be a change there. So we'll see how that affects the flow of things in the game. And finally, the one other big boss update that they wanted to highlight, which was that when you are farming Duriel now, you can see this Sork fighting Duriel. They did get some ancestral boots with 2 greater affixes on them. That the summoning cauldron respawns. You no longer have to leave the dungeon to resummon the boss, which is an awesome quality of life update. I imagine it's going to be the exact same thing for Andariel. They didn't show any footage um of the player summoning Andariel and running Andariel over and over again, but I do really like that you can do that. Uh, you know, it really was annoying to have to leave dungeon, wait till, especially if you're running a rota, and wait till your entire party's out, go back in, blah, blah. So everybody can just sit there now and just drill the boss over and over and over again. So I really like that quality of life update. Overall, I really like the direction of all the updates coming to season 5. I will have to take a look at the patch notes, and I guess we'll talk about some of the updates a little bit more in depth, more than we have already. But this was just about the campfire chat and some of the things that they highlighted there. Would love to know what you guys think of the direction of the game. Once again, we're in season 4, one of the most exciting seasons in the game right now. We're going into season 5, which looks like it's going to be an absolute blast. And then on what is it, August 8th, I believe it is, or sorry, October 8th, we're going to be getting Vessel of Hatred. I believe August 8th is when this season ends, and then we get a month and a half long season for season 5. It's going to be a short season, and then season 6 is going to be starting with the beginning of A Vessel of Hatred. I can't wait. I can't wait. That was an entire mouthful. I know there's a lot coming, but Diablo excitement is at an all-time high. So we'll love to know what you think of all the updates that I discussed here today, and what you're looking forward to most that is coming over the horizon. With that, that is all from me. If you like videos like this and you want more, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.